Have you ever prepared a steak thinking you've cooked it to perfection, only to chomp down on a dry, tasteless piece of shoe leather? What happened? Didn't finish it in the oven or slice it completely wrong? Don't know? Well, we're here to help. Steak is one of those meats that benefits from quick, high-heat cooking, which isn't a problem if you're cooking outside on the grill. When you bring the cooking inside, you need to consider which pans in your arsenal can handle the high heat. No matter what you do, don't reach for a non-stick pan when cooking steak. According to Good Housekeeping, overheating a Teflon-coated pan causes the coating to release toxic chemicals. Although you can't see it happening, the coating starts to break down at a molecular level, releasing potentially carcinogenic gases into the environment. Non-stick pans also can't go in the oven, which you might need to use to finish cooking thicker steaks. Much better to use a pan that's good at searing and can also be used in the oven, like stainless steel or cast iron. These pans can handle high heat temperatures, both on the stovetop and in the oven, and they hold heat well, ensuring an even sear.
People seem to like that. Yeah.
I'll try it.
Okay, great.
Some people say that serving a steak with perfect diamond grill marks is the way to go, but we disagree. Grill marks make the steak look pretty, but it doesn't ensure that it tastes as good as it can. Better to skip the grill marks and get a hard sear on the steak instead. You see, the exterior of a steak will brown and caramelize when it's exposed to high heat because of something called the Maillard reaction, a chemical reaction that happens between amino acids and sugars. The result is a pleasantly crispy crust and the production of hundreds of flavor compounds that make the steak taste better. The best way to get this sear is to use a cast iron skillet. These pans don't have any gaps like a grill grate, so the steak will be exposed to even heat on its entire surface. Make sure to let the skillet preheat until it's smoking hot before adding a splash of cooking oil. Then cook the steak for 3 to 4 minutes without touching it before flipping it over and searing it on the other side. If you want to get a better sear using the grill, make sure to move the steak around frequently to give the surface more exposure to the grill grates. We like to turn the heat down to medium-high and flip the steak every minute until it reaches the proper internal temperature. You can skip this step for steaks that are an inch or thinner, but using the oven is a great way to cook thick steaks. Cooking a steak over direct heat on the grill or in a preheated skillet will cook the steak from the outside in, caramelizing the exterior as the heat slowly creeps towards the meat's center. But it takes a long time to cook a thick steak all the way through, and you can end up burning the outside before the inside finishes cooking. Stovetop searing also doesn't ensure the steak will cook evenly, as the meat is only exposed to heat from the bottom. Instead, use the oven's overall heat to finish cooking your steak. You'll still want to give the steaks a hard and fast sear to develop that gorgeous crust, so go ahead and sear the steak for 3 to 4 minutes on the first side, then flip the steak over and pop it into a 450-degree oven for about 10 minutes. The pan will be hot enough to sear the second side, and the gentle heat of the oven will cook the steak while keeping it nice and juicy. If you're using a probe thermometer, even better. You'll know the exact moment when you should remove the steak from the oven. Overcooking steak is the best way to end up with a dry, tasteless hunk of meat. We know that some people prefer their steaks cooked to well-done temperatures, but we subscribed to the Hank Hill school of cooking steaks.
What if somebody wants theirs well done?
We ask them politely yet firmly to leave.
What makes an overcooked steak so bad? According to Amazing Ribs, meat dries out as it cooks because of chemical and physical reactions that occur inside the meat. The muscle fibers and connective tissues contract, squeezing out moisture. This then, in turn, causes the proteins to begin to denature, making the meat tough and dry. By the time the meat reaches 155 degrees, it doesn't contain enough moisture to taste juicy, and the fibers have become tough. The best way to ensure your steak won't accidentally overcook is to use a thermometer. Probing the meat will allow you to know the exact internal temperature without having to cut into it. If you happen to be cooking for someone who insists they need their meat well done, buy an inexpensive steak like round or rump steak. They won't be able to taste the quality of expensive meat, so you may as well save some money if you're going to purposely ruin a steak. Even if you do everything correctly, you can still mess up your steak at the last moment. Luckily, this mistake is really easy to avoid so long as you pay attention to a few details. It all has to do with something called the grain, long muscle fibers in meat that run parallel to each other. If you slice with the grain, you'll end up with a lot of long muscle fibers that can be hard to chew. That means your steak will taste chewy even if it was cooked perfectly. Instead, position your knife perpendicular to the grain so it forms a T with all those tiny lines. By slicing against the grain, you'll shorten those muscle fibers and make them easier to chew, resulting in a more tender-tasting steak. It's sometimes difficult to identify the grain, especially when it seems to change directions. You may need to switch directions halfway through cutting the steak, but it will be worth it when you take a bite. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more mashed videos about your favorite foods are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.